What would you think if I told you that meaning is stronger than pain, that the human spirit carries a fortress no cruelty can dismantle? Some endure the storm, while others are swept away, but it is the one who discovers purpose amid suffering who becomes truly untouchable. When the world strips away comfort, dignity, and certainty, there remains a space the oppressor cannot enter, the sacred domain of choice. Every thought, every attitude, every refusal to surrender belongs solely to the self. In this invisible citadel, no hunger, no humiliation, no threat can trespass. This is the inner victory they can never steal. Look upon the lives of those tested by unimaginable hardship: the prisoner in a camp, the one betrayed by friends, the survivor of loss so deep it threatens to hollow the soul. They endure not because the pain is less, but because meaning compels them to rise. Viktor Frankl observed that humans are not destroyed by suffering, but by the absence of purpose. Those who find a why in the darkest night discover a power untouched by circumstance. It is not in the absence of suffering that triumph is found, but in the decision to stand, to act, to love, and to create even when all else is stripped away. Consider your own life. The moments when grief presses, disappointment lingers, when injustice mocks every effort. You may feel small, powerless, insignificant, and yet, within that moment, lies an eternal choice: to surrender, or to affirm that suffering does not own you. There is freedom here, profound and unassailable, a quiet rebellion that even the most tyrannical force cannot suppress. Pain may exist outside, but meaning dwells within. One cannot take what has been claimed by the soul. This is the truth that echoes through centuries of Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca all understood that external circumstance is never the master. Life will demand compliance, life will wound, life will humiliate. Yet the human spirit retains sovereignty over how it responds. It can yield, or it can rise. And rise it does, when it discovers purpose, when it chooses integrity, when it cultivates love and courage amid suffering. Every small decision of conscience, every refusal to relinquish dignity, every act of kindness in a cruel world becomes an unassailable triumph. The world may attempt to define victory as power, wealth, or recognition, but the inner triumph is quiet, uncelebrated, yet absolute. It is the smile of one who has lost everything but refuses bitterness. It is the calm of one who has been betrayed yet chooses compassion. It is the refusal to let circumstance dictate the value of the soul. In these moments, the invisible victory is claimed, a fortress of choice erected where none can trespass. Do not mistake this for passivity or resignation. This is the active courage of the spirit, the conscious defiance that transforms suffering into meaning. To endure, to act rightly despite despair, to hold faith in the possibility of good. This is power beyond measure. You are never merely a victim of circumstance. Even in imprisonment, illness, betrayal, or grief, the capacity for choice remains. And it is precisely here, in this choice, that the human spirit asserts its invincibility. Every day presents the opportunity to exercise this power. Every loss, every humiliation, every wound invites the same question. Will you surrender to the world's cruelty, or will you cultivate the sanctuary of your inner self? Each act of moral courage, each moment of conscious meaning-making, each decision to love, to forgive, to persevere, becomes an invisible crown of victory. The body can be shackled, the resources taken, the reputation tarnished, but the spirit remains sovereign. The one who masters this truth possesses an invincibility no human hand can touch. In the quietest, darkest moments, when the world is stripped to its barest cruelty, the inner victory is revealed. It is a power independent of circumstance, a freedom unshakable, a dignity unassailable. This is the treasure no oppressor, no enemy, no fate can steal. And it begins with the simplest, most radical act, the decision to affirm that life is meaningful, even when it is cruel, and to live accordingly. Some imagine freedom as the absence of pain, the ability to move unburdened through life's corridors, untouched by loss or injustice. But the deeper truth is that freedom resides not in circumstance, but in the soul's stance toward it. It is the prisoner, standing in the frost of an endless night, who first glimpses it, the realization that no lock, no chain, no threat can touch what lies within. Choice is never granted, it is claimed. Responsibility is never optional, it is inherent. And in this quiet, unseen realm, the soul discovers a victory invisible to the world but profound in its implications. Consider the human response to suffering. Many bend, many break, many seek escape in distraction, anger, or denial. Yet the one who rises above does so not because suffering is less, but because meaning has been seized as an anchor. Viktor Frankl's insight illuminates this. Suffering is inevitable, but despair is optional. It is a question of perspective, of attitude, of the willingness to see beyond the immediate pain toward a horizon of purpose. One can endure the deprivation of freedom, the betrayal of trust, the loss of all familiar security, and still emerge unbroken because the inner fortress remains untouched. Do not imagine this is easy. The human spirit must battle continuously against the seduction of bitterness and despair. It must confront the siren call of resentment, the temptation to surrender one's dignity to circumstance. And yet, every refusal, every deliberate choice to act with conscience, to love when hatred surrounds, to hope when hopelessness threatens, strengthens that fortress. It is built brick by brick with each conscious act, each moment of moral courage, each assertion that life, even in its cruelty, has value. You may not control the world, but you can master your response. You may not halt suffering, but you can claim victory in your stance toward it. Notice how those who embrace this truth carry an almost sacred power. They move through life with a quiet gravity, their presence unassailable, their dignity intact. Loss may visit, cruelty may strike, misfortune may descend like a storm, but the inner citadel stands, unbreached. And this is not merely philosophical abstraction, it is practical, tangible, living reality. In the gaze of one who refuses to surrender, in the steady calm of one who holds meaning amid chaos, others glimpse the impossible made real. A victory no tyrant, no circumstance, no fate can claim. You are confronted daily with microcosms of this eternal struggle. Small injustices, fleeting humiliations, unfulfilled desires, all test the sovereignty of the inner self. How often is a day lost to anger over what cannot be changed? How often is energy squandered on resentment rather than purpose? To reclaim the inner victory, one must practice the discipline of perspective, to separate what is within control from what is not, to invest heart and soul in what is chosen rather than what is inflicted, to discover the meaning hidden in every encounter, every challenge, every trial. Stoic wisdom and Frankl's existential insights converge here. Suffering is a teacher, limitation a guide, constraint a call to higher awareness. The world may demand compliance, but it cannot compel surrender of meaning. It may destroy wealth, reputation, comfort, even health, but the essence of the human spirit remains sovereign if claimed. Choice, once seized, is indestructible. Responsibility, once embraced, is unassailable. And in this reality lies the core of the inner victory, an invulnerability that exists independent of the world's chaos, a freedom that cannot be purchased, borrowed, or stolen. Even in pain, even in loss, the human being is called to transcend the immediate, to locate the why that outshines the how. When illness confines the body, when betrayal shadows the heart, when grief threatens to hollow the soul, There remains the unyielding space where meaning is chosen, purpose is enacted, and dignity is defended. This is not optimism, it is realism, the profound acknowledgement that while circumstances may shape events, they cannot dictate the response of a free spirit. To live in this understanding is to claim the inner victory in full, to live untouchable in the most profound sense. And so, every act of courage, every refusal to succumb to despair, every decision to act in accordance with conscience rather than circumstance, becomes a brick in an unbreakable citadel. You may lose possessions, comfort, esteem, even relationships, but the soul that understands its own capacity for meaning is indestructible. It is in these moments, often quiet and unseen, that the human spirit proves its resilience. And it is here that you discover the greatest freedom imaginable, the power to choose who you are in every situation, and the triumph that no external force can ever take. The world may rage, collapse, or crumble around you, yet within lies a sanctuary untouched by circumstance, a realm where the soul asserts itself and claims dominion over despair. Here, in the quiet chamber of consciousness, no authority, no injustice, no calamity can trespass. This is the ultimate triumph, the recognition that suffering does not diminish the spirit unless it is permitted to do so. Every moment of choice, every deliberate act of meaning, every embrace of responsibility fortifies this inner citadel, rendering it impervious to the tides of fortune. Those who grasp this truth carry an aura of serenity, not born of indifference, but of engagement with the essence of existence. They do not wait for conditions to be ideal. They do not rely on external validation. Instead, they act as though every hour is a sacred opportunity, every encounter a chance to live with dignity, every hardship a crucible in which the soul is tempered. And in this engagement, they discover that even suffering is a gateway, a passage through which life can be elevated from mere survival to profound purpose. Notice how easily the world attempts to rob hope, how readily it magnifies fear and helplessness. Yet the individual who has anchored themselves in meaning becomes unassailable. For what can oppress a heart that understands its own capacity to choose, a mind that recognizes its responsibility to act, a spirit that refuses to surrender to bitterness? Circumstance may dictate the body, events may shape the environment, but the internal landscape remains sovereign, cultivated by deliberate thought, unwavering commitment, and the unshakable knowledge that meaning can always be found. The path to this victory is neither easy nor automatic. It requires vigilance, a continuous cultivation of awareness and courage. One must confront the seductive power of resentment, the quiet tyranny of self-pity, the endless distraction of the trivial, and refuse them entry. Every decision to respond with integrity rather than reflex, with hope rather than despair, with love rather than anger, is a reaffirmation of the inner fortress. Each deliberate act strengthens the foundation upon which the spirit stands, a foundation that no external force can erode. Even in the face of death, this power endures. The finality of mortality cannot undo the triumph of a life lived with purpose. A moment of clarity, a recognition of the worth of each action, a willingness to confront suffering with dignity, is the ultimate exercise of freedom. Here, the human being transcends circumstance entirely, and the inner victory is fully realized. The freedom to act nobly, to choose meaning, to uphold one's values, even when all else is stripped away. This is the paradoxical truth Viktor Frankl illuminated. The conditions of life may be beyond control, but the response to life is never constrained. The soul, in its courage and resolve, possesses a liberty that cannot be stolen, a sovereignty that cannot be violated, a victory that endures when all else has vanished. And as one cultivates this understanding, one begins to move through the world not as a victim of events, but as a conscious architect of meaning. Every thought, every act, every response becomes imbued with purpose, radiating resilience that touches others and reinforces one's own inner fortitude. Therefore, do not wait for suffering to pass before seeking meaning. Do not postpone courage until circumstances are convenient. Do not yield the sovereignty of your spirit to the whims of fate. The power to transcend is yours, present in every moment, accessible in every decision, reaffirmed in every act of conscience. To embrace this truth is to walk through life untouchable in the deepest sense, challenged by pain, yet undiminished, assailed by circumstance, yet unconquered, encumbered by loss, yet rich in the inviolable treasure of inner victory. And in this realization, liberation arrives, not as the absence of hardship, but as the full recognition that no external force can diminish the soul that claims meaning. Life becomes not a series of uncontrollable events, but a continuous canvas upon which purpose can be painted, a persistent opportunity to assert freedom, a sacred arena in which the human spirit proves its resilience. Every day, every hour, every breath becomes a chance to exercise the freedom that no one can steal, the victory that no tyranny can undo, the dignity that no adversity can compromise. The one who embraces this truth carries an unshakable core, a fortress of choice, a sovereignty of the soul, a victory they can never relinquish. And in the final measure, when all else has faded, one remains, the chooser, the resilient, the undaunted spirit, illuminated by meaning, strengthened by suffering, liberated through the conscious exercise of freedom. The one who has a why can endure almost any how,